We are back inside City Hall. It's called the National Work Readiness Credential. It's a state program that's designed to help young New Yorkers enter the job force. But a critical new study of the program says that it is fundamentally flawed and costly and ineffective. Here to talk more about the report's finding is Margaret Stix. She's from the group Jobs First New York City. Welcome. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Good to see you.
You have lots and lots of years of experience in job training and working with programs and coalitions that do this stuff. But in particular, this particular readiness credential, this is something that's been going on since, what, 2002, right?
Well, the development of it started in 2002. It was more or less launched in about between 2006 and 2007.
Now, what I even after reading the report, what I don't understand is we tell kids all the time, the disconnected youth, kids between ages 16 and 24 who are neither in school nor working. What we've told them all over and over again is get that high school diploma, get a GED, go to community college, get those kind of credentials. Why did the state of New York, along with some other states, invest so much time and money to create this other alternative credential?
Well, at the time that this began in the early 2001, 2002, there were a whole series of articles where businesses were saying, we can't find workers who are prepared to work, who come with a suitable work ethic and the discipline that they need. And so the state, in response to that, decided that they would put together a work readiness credential so that folks who may have been missing the other credentials that businesses take seriously would have something to produce to say, here's my credential, it shows that I'm ready to work. So that was the notion behind it. And the State Department of Labor surveyed businesses, mostly I believe upstate. We couldn't identify businesses downstate that were surveyed, and asked them what qualities they needed in a work-ready person. I don't believe that most of the businesses reflected the kinds of businesses that are hiring in New York City. I think some of the sample questions that we saw reflect that.
Yeah, let me pull up one of the sample questions, and then and then we'll try and match this back to reality, because what we're talking about is these so-called disconnected youth. Again, 16 to 24, and they're not in school and they're not working. And this is one of the test preparation questions that actually was used to get this credential. And it says, you've been hired to assist a local real estate company with its office relocation. The following checklist outlines all the tasks that must be completed prior to the move. And, this is inventory existing office furniture and equipment. I mean, these kind of, just the wording of it, the presentation of all of this stuff. I mean, this is not what a high school dropout, frankly, is going to be needing to sort of master and process in order to get a job, right? I mean, the people I know who hire people, and I've hired folks in past jobs. I mean, you want somebody who's going to show up on time, do what you tell them to, not fight with their coworkers, and be ready to
and all of those skills and abilities, none of them can be measured by a computerized test.
Right, it's a computerized test.
And in fact, employers have told us this. We've surveyed 150 employers to say, is this something that could be useful to you? This is what the test measures. And Greg Hambrick, for instance, who's in charge of human resources for Modell's, hires
sporting goods store where I go and buy my barbells and stuff like that. Right?
Hires 2,000 young adults a year. He said, this has no meaning to me.
Yes, the kids at Modell's who are selling sneakers, they are not rocket scientists. They do not have to be rocket scientists. They don't have to be able to pass a computerized test, as is the point of your report. But let me ask you this. I mean, well, first of all, we asked the Department of Labor, State Department of Labor, which has insisted on using this, because if you're a work training program, you have to do this if you want to get certain goodies. And if you're a business that wants to get certain tax credits, and it's a lot of money at stake, you have to take only people who have used this, who have this credential to present to you. And what the spokesman said to us, the New York State Department of Labor encourages all training providers to have meaningful credentials and supports the idea of a National Work Readiness Credential. However, the department does not mandate that workers have this credential as a prerequisite to employment. What's your response to that?
Well, for one thing, they have to say that because nobody is getting the credential. What we've seen is that the pass rate is less than 10%. And in fact, for African American youth, it's more like 3%. And so...
Well, the number you had was that 11,000 kids tried to pass the test, and 317 actually did.
Yes.
Okay, so.
And that's after going through an 8-week preparation program.
Okay, so it's a little too easy to just say, hey, government got this wrong, government is acting silly. But the last budget that just passed, the administration, the Cuomo administration, was very proud. They said that they're going to up the amount of money that they're giving to businesses from $6 million to $10 million who accept this credential. In other words, that money's only spent, those incentives only go to businesses if people have, if one of those 317 kids comes through the door.
I don't think that's exactly the way it works.
Okay.
I think they will give out that tax abatement irrespective of if the young adult who's gone through the program actually has the credential. They simply have to prepare for it. They have to take the test for it. They don't necessarily have to have it.
Oh, so they can take the test, fail the test, not have the credential?
Absolutely.
Okay, so it seems like we're maybe just churning a lot of people through a test system for a credential that, as
they're not going to get. And but also there's a human dimension to this. Mm-hmm. If you're a young adult who's already failed, you've dropped out of school, you don't know what the future holds, do you really want to put that poor kid through another process where they're going to fail? Mm-hmm. And I mean, you talked about the irrelevance of the questions on there. These questions are very difficult. They're difficult for anybody. I took a number of them and I got them all wrong myself. So,
is the Department of Labor open to maybe changing this? My understanding is that New York is, although this was supposed to be a big national standard, that there are some competing standards at a minimum, and that there are some states that have stopped making people go through this rigmarole, right?
Well, New York originally was partnering with several other states, and every single one of them has abandoned this entirely. And in fact, one of the states is developing its own credential for young adults, and that's Rhode Island.
Okay, so it might be time just to say goodbye to this.
That's what we think, and we think the money should be reallocated to programs that actually do prepare young adults for the jobs that will provide them self-sustaining wages. That's the tragedy of this. We are spending millions and millions of dollars on something that's utterly useless when we have an employment crisis for young adults. We have 172,000 young adults in New York City who are out of school and out of work, and they don't have a future unless we change things.
Here at the local level, we've only got about 30 seconds left, but the new administration, the Department of Youth and Community Development, New York City doesn't have to sort of play along with this, and in years hasn't, is my understanding, right?
The state has a regulation. They have a technical advisory. It covers the entire state, and it requires all local areas to have at least 50% of young adults who are in federally funded programs take the test and achieve a pass rate of 30%. That applies to New York City as well, and New York City now has to put together a plan, a correction plan, because it didn't meet those objectives.
Right, because the kids are not going to be able to pass.
Exactly.
They're not going to make 30. Okay. All right, well, we're going to continue to follow. This is a little complicated, but too important not to delve into. So, Margaret Stix, thank you so much for explaining it to us. We are going to take a short break now. I'll be back in a minute with a preview of tomorrow night's program. Stay with us.